Who you roll with shapes who you become. This week, Jiu Jitsu Black Belt Andrew Marshall dives into how the friends you choose can fuel or derail your resilience. From the mat to real life, this episode is all about choosing courage over comfort. Welcome back to Forged Youth Legacy Within, everybody. I am here with a really well-established athlete. He has played many sports over the years, and we're going to hear all about it. But he ended up with jujitsu, martial arts, and being a mindset coach and helping people on their journeys with that. And I am so grateful to have him here, taking the time to share some of his knowledge and experience with us. So, Andrew Marshall, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mariel. I'm excited and honored to be here as well.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Like, where you've been an athlete for a long time. How old
Mm.
were you when you first started, and what sport was it?
I think the first sport I started playing actually on a team, I was 7 and I joined a baseball team and I just loved it. It's like it's all I wanted to do. So basically being outside and playing sports, that's like all I wanted to do as a kid.
Hmm. So, at 7 years old, that's awesome. And the team aspect, being social, how competitive was that for you? Because I know back when I was younger, when we were younger, sports were a lot different. They were, yes, they were competitive, but they're still a lot, I feel like, more relaxed than they are today. How
Mm.
was that experience for you? Was it super competitive? Was it?
It was competitive. Yeah.
Okay.
So for whatever, I don't know if it was more just within me and my nature, or it was like some imprinting that I got on me from my environment. But from a very young age, I was really competitive. And
Hmm.
I always thought about wanting to be the best.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
best on the team, the best in the league, the best batting average, the best center fielder, the best, like that was in my mind really strongly. And I think in a way to a detriment because I put some, like from a young age, I had a lot of anxiety
Hmm.
and sort of insecurity
Yeah.
on the field and off the field that I had to work with that I wish I would have been more relaxed with now in hindsight. So that's one of the things that could be talked about today.
Yeah.
Uh, Yeah, that's sort of a longer answer of like, yeah, I was a really competitive young guy.
Okay, so let's talk about that right now. Like how, because I feel like there is a balance. Like it's so good to be competitive. It drives us to continue to grow and be the best versions of ourselves. But then there is a tipping point where it almost starts to like rule our lives and really kind of get in the way. So as a kid too, like how do we learn what that balance is and how did you learn that?
Yeah, awesome question. Because I think there's some nuance and artistry, and everyone's kind of, you have to support everyone as the unique individual that they are around the
Mm.
artistry of this mindset and their genuine expression along with their professional motivation. Um, oh, I lost my train of thought for a second. But oh yeah, we don't want to swing like there can be a tendency to swing between these extremes where we tell kids, "Oh, don't worry about winning or losing, just have fun. You're just here to have fun." Right? Focus on that. But like if we're talking to really focused, competitive, elite young athletes, it's like yeah, I'm here to have fun. I do this sport because I love it, but you're also there to win. You're also there to push. You're also there to be the best you can be, right?
Hmm.
So, um, I think for me, the one thing is um, having good coach. I think I wish I would have had coaches that would have helped me in the mindset piece a little bit more. I
Hmm.
think I don't know, you mentioned the difference between how sports used to be, how they are now. I think I was plunged into a pretty competitive environment at a young age and kind of more of an old school mentality. And maybe it's also because I dove into football, like I really fell in love with football. And
Yeah.
so my coaches were kind of these old school guys that were like, you know, don't worry about, you're either are you hurt or you're injured. If you're just hurt, get your ass, get back on the field,
Yeah.
and like I really took that to heart and I hurt my body and I was always had this pressure and this fear of like, oh, I don't want to drop the ball. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to do all this stuff. And and they pushed us really hard. And I think if there's one thing I wish I would have been able to relax as a younger person is that fear of making a mistake. So it's like, yeah, I'm out there to have fun. Yes, I'm out there to perform well. But what's actually would have helped me perform a lot better if I was able to free myself from the fear of making a mistake
Yeah.
and just allowed the flow of expression and action in the moment a little bit more and really enjoyed and like was able to just be really present in the moment and enjoy that and know that if I make a mistake, it's all right. I got time. Like I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna correct that mistake. Consistency is key. If I just train consistently, I don't have to feel like I have to be in a hurry to get things perfect, or I don't have to make a big deal about mistakes I make. Because really, every time I make a mistake, that's an opportunity to learn and get better. So I think that was a piece that was missing for me.
Yeah. Oh, that led me to a really interesting question that I actually haven't thought of before. And that is, how deep do you think the tie is between athletes who are scared of making mistakes and athletes who are competitive? Do you think that the ones that are really nervous about making mistakes are super competitive because they just do not want to be in the mistake pool? Do you know what I mean?
hmm You know, I think I think it's two different things.
Okay.
And as I'm feeling into it now, I think it's a really great question. I don't know if there's a direct correlation to level of competitiveness and level of fear of making a mistake, because at least from my observation, it seems like the athletes who have the greatest success, I witness them as not having as much of that fear of making a mistake.
Yeah.
So whether competitive or not, they might be really, that's not, I don't think that's the variable. I think it's like the really competitive athletes who have that confidence to just go in and put themselves in position to make things happen and to be those key players. They're free from making those mistakes. They're free from that fear of making the mistakes, which allows them to get in the zone, get in that flow. Like Michael Jordan's a great example. He's has several quotes that you can reference and hear him talk about all the mistakes that he's made. And everyone sees him as the best. Everyone sees him as, oh, you want to have an example of success? Sure, Michael Jordan's a good example of that. But if you hear the quotes, he remembers all the mistakes he made. He remembers the shots that he missed. But then he talks about how his willingness to put himself in those positions and learn and grow through every mistake, which
Mm-hmm.
made him one of the best ever in his sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's true. I bring up Michael Jordan often because of that, because everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
And he's so open about the fact of, I think one of the quotes is like over 9,000 missed shots in his career,
Yeah.
or something like
Right.
crazy, right? Where everybody's like, holy shit, that's a big number.
And like I missed 26 game-winning shots. He's known for making a bunch, but he
Yes.
remembers 26 game-winning shots that he missed. And he's
Yeah.
like, but he's this Forged Youth podcast, he's forging himself in the fire of those moments and letting it be okay. And that's one of the scariest things for whether it's an athlete or anyone in the public eye. One of the scariest, I think, core things to us as human beings is vulnerably showing our process and our mistakes and our shortcomings in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
and having our journey on display, our ups and downs of our journey on display. But I think if we can be willing to do that and be okay with that, even if we look bad in front of people sometimes, that's really forging yourself in the fire to be able to go through that and then stay the course, stay consistent, and then you become that standout person who's
Mm-hmm.
comfortable where everyone else is uncomfortable, who thrives under the pressure where other people will fold.
Mm, I love that. I being comfortable in the uncomfortable of taking risks and making mistakes because that's where we continue to grow and level up and rise in every aspect of life. And
Exactly.
I people are always, I think, nervous of what other people are going to think or say. And then that becomes noise in our head that make us fearful to kind of step out of line, quote unquote, or to make that mistake or take the shot or, all that. And so how, you're a mindset guru over there. Like, how do we help ourselves and these teen athletes and like how do we quiet the noise and not worry about what other people are thinking or saying when it comes to what we're doing so that we can just focus on our own journey? How do we do that tangibly? How do we do that?
Yeah, I'll jam on you with that. And the other thing I'll just add to what you said is like, yeah, when we have this fear, this nervousness come up really strong, and this concern about making a mistake or what other people might think or say or how they'll view us, it totally clouds and hinders our ability to perform fully and freely.
Mm,
So, how do we do that? One, speaking to any, coaches that might be listening, is coaches, we got to really be in the ear of our athletes, like letting them know it's like, it's all good to make mistakes. I just want you to show up fully and give your full effort. And I'm going to
mm,
help you continue to get better. If you make mistakes, it's all good. We're going to keep moving forward. We're going to improve on it. It's okay. I just want you to show up fully. Like sort of that reiteration
yeah.
to the young mind, helping program in a positive way the young mind for resilience and for teaching them that it's all about consistency. You go out in the game, you give your full presence, your full effort, you do your best. We're always going to look at what we did well, what the mistakes are, what the things are that we can improve on. Then we're going to go back to practice and we're just going to consistently train it. So I think that's key for coaches to really be speaking in that way and thinking in that way to help their young athletes' mindset because there are methods we can do in the moment to support a significant shift within someone's mind and focus. But also it's just about like just like we would do repetitions of a physical technique or movement, as coaches, we should be supporting the mental repetitions and the repetitive thoughts that are
Mm,
going through our athletes' minds. So it's
mm,
that's a big thing that's on the coaches because they don't know.
yeah.
They don't know. They're blank slates. They're sponges,
Yeah.
young, right? So there's that piece. Then, um, what the young athletes can do is, as the sponges that they are, be proactively asking for the best coaching and the best mentorship, be seeking out listening to podcasts like this. And remember that it is all about consistency. If you train consistently and show up consistently and prepare, you'll naturally be less nervous because I prepared. It's
Yeah.
not just an idea. It's like physically I showed up and
Hmm.
I'm well prepared. The other piece is just, and I'm sure there's many different like sports psychology techniques and many different mindset techniques and tools that people can utilize. I'm trained in a suite of specific processes that say if there's a strong fear or a strong nervousness that's coming up for an athlete, I can say, okay, sit down, close your eyes. Where do you feel that in your body? How do you experience it? I'll go through some questions that help them really identify and feel it fully, and then
Mhm.
guide them through a step-by-step process to actually transform the energy and the motion of that kind of that emotional charge, that nervousness, that fear, and transform it um, into where they're not feeling that intense feeling as much anymore, and they're also having a what do you call it? A reassociation with the feeling that it's actually there to motivate them and bring them to being more present. It's actually aliveness
Mhm.
coursing through them. And it's good that they deeply care, but we can diminish the intensity of that feeling and also help to focus their mindset and then create a new narrative, a new pattern. Because there might be, with that fear, there might be a pattern of thought that says, I hope I don't mess up. I hope I don't mess up. Or I always make a mistake at the worst times, or I'm not very good in this moment, or people like this always get the better of me here, having those thoughts, and we can then consciously, we can remove the emotional charge, shift that, and then consciously choose a new narrative to adopt that says, I can show up strong in any situation. I can learn and grow through, every experience.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I can be the best center, or I can be the best hitter, I can be the best player, in the league, just
Yeah.
infusing those kinds of mindsets and
Yeah.
thoughts.
There were so many good things in there. I okay, so the first thing that came to mind when you were talking about like reframing and moving that energy from being, anxious or nervous or into something that is serves you in that moment was a story that a parent brought to me, and I love this story. It was about this little girl. She was in, I think it was karate, a martial art of some sort, and she was getting her belt, and she had to go against bigger kids. And I think that she was the only girl. And she was kind of waiting by the ring and getting super nervous and all that. And her sensei came over to her and said, "How are you feeling?" And she said, "Oh, really nervous. I've got crazy butterflies," explaining this to her to him. And he just looks down at her and he goes, "That's okay. Just get your butterflies in formation."
Wow. Love that.
And I was like, "Oh, that is such a beautiful way to like, it's okay to have the
Yeah.
butterflies. Just like gather them into a way that is going to serve you positive purpose."
Yes.
So that came up for me.
I
And
love
then
that.
just the power of self-talk and the fact that like all of you youth listening who are struggling with the negative self-talk and like kind of like being hard on yourself and stuff. It's not just a you thing and it's not just a youth thing. Like adults,
Right.
pro athletes, CEOs, entertainers, like it doesn't we this is something that is a continual process is being able to be kind to yourself and your own mind. Can you like maybe speak to that a bit? Because you work with adults and athletes, and this isn't something that just like happens because you're 14.
100% correct. I think I was probably around 30 where I feel like I really like had a shift to a much kinder, more
Mhm.
positive mindset that really stuck
Yeah,
from my experience, and it doesn't have to take that long, but that's just to illustrate your point, you
yeah.
know. Um, yeah, it's probably one of the core things that all human beings struggle with,
Mm,
right? So that's when we're talking about sports and our passion for our sport and being an athlete. What happens when we're training hard and we're giving it our all is there's also all these core fundamental just human experiences and inner challenges that are arising as well.
mm,
In a way, each of us is having our own unique experience, and in another way, like none of it's like the essence of it is not unique.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, it's very common actually, and we can utilize our journey as an athlete for incredible personal growth, not just performance. We can utilize it to say, oh, when I show up for the big game, all of this happens within inside of me. Great. Engage with that, experience it, be present to it. Know that if you can be present with that and work through it and show up anyway in the midst of all these various feelings coming up, you're facing some of your deepest, you're facing deep human fears and challenges that are going to
Hmm.
serve you in every area of life and help you grow into the most free and alive and strong person that you can be.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The all of the lessons that I learned from being an athlete, I use every single day as just as a human.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm curious for you because you've transitioned from sport kind of to sport to sport. So it was baseball, football, and then jiu-jitsu, correct?
With jiu-jitsu, boxing, some MMA, yeah.
Okay, so it can be hard to decide, okay, I'm done with this sport. What do I want to try next?
Hmm.
So what was that process like for you? Like, how did you know that you were done with baseball? Or how did you know that you were done with football and it was time to move on? And then, like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I love that question. I look back on it and I see it as kind of a challenging journey, but that was also forging me and growing me. But
Hmm.
it leads into some other things that I think are valuable to share because so baseball was definitely the sport that I was best at growing up. And in hindsight, if I was going to do some hindsight, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have known this, all this stuff. I would have definitely stuck with baseball rather than playing football.
Okay.
Because I've been about 175, 180 pounds, 6 foot guy ever since I was 17. So another thing I wish some coaches or someone who knew me would have sat down and said, Andrew, you can do what you want to do, but I'm gonna let you know, like, you're just not built to be a professional football player.
Yeah.
You're really good and technical in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
You got a better chance of going farther with that.
Mm-hmm.
Stick with that. I didn't have that understanding. I was just like, whatever I'm at, I'm gonna be the best at it. I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna be a pro athlete. But I was just not built to be a pro football player. It took me till my senior year to really have that sober realization. But backing up, baseball, I basically stopped playing baseball because I kind of started hanging out with influences that made me feel more like I wanted to be tough. I wanted to be cool. I had my own personal turmoil happening. So by the time when I was 13, I started drinking and smoking quite a bit.
Okay.
And baseball, and then I got exposed to football, and that was more exciting. That was more badass. That was like tough, it was like so I wanted to prove myself there and like get on the warrior field, all that.
Yeah.
And baseball started feeling boring. So I quit baseball and I started showing up even like drunk. I'm like 14, 15, showing up drunk to baseball practices and like just not taking it seriously and then so I switched to focusing on football. I just dropped that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I got to my senior year of football, and I just had that realization of like, yeah, this isn't going to work to play beyond. I was even the captain of the football team. I was, really good as a high school player because I had a technical understanding, but my body was just so beat up because I was willing to throw it around against people that were much bigger than me. And I
Mm-hmm.
just never backed down, and I was always trying to prove myself. So I really wrecked my body by the time I was done with my senior year of high school with football. But then the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, started gaining more ground and more popularity. My friends and I started watching that. This was 2006.
Mhm.
My friends and I started watching that and getting really into it and started training in the backyard, which then transferred to finding a gym and training there. And I was so grateful actually towards the end of my senior year that I found jujitsu and found MMA, and I was just all in on it. I was like, great. I didn't know for a few months, like, I'm like, what now? Football was my life, you know? And,
Yeah.
oh, here's my new life. Perfect. And I was just fully 100% in on it. The problem was is I tried to be competitive in grappling and jiu-jitsu and then competitive in boxing and planning to work my way to MMA. As I shared, my body was so beaten
Mm.
down. I remember having moments sitting there, I was 20 and thinking I felt like a broken down 60-year-old, just like chronic back pain and just like my neck, my shoulders, my knees, everything was just felt like terrible.
Mhm.
And I ended up having a shoulder surgery, which slowed me down. And then I was like, I just I can't push like this anymore. So I stuck with jujitsu and I started shifting more to coaching, like still training, but not training hard, as hard like a competitor, and focused on coaching. And I still competed at over time. I ended up competing at some high levels in jiu-jitsu as a black belt, which was great. And I probably still will again. I haven't been for a while, but I can feel I'm coming back into a phase of re-engaging with being able to make space to compete and train that way.
Nice.
But I realized I'm a good competitor, but I'm a great coach.
Hmm.
And so just that's sort of a summary of how I went from one to another is actually because of my hard-headedness. It was more like, like the ending of football, I had to just accept that and
Mhm.
then got stoked on fighting. Then I got stopped in fighting by injuries and I had to just accept that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I was open to what the other doors were opening for me.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm not doing what I thought I would be able to do and knew I wanted to do, which was just be a professional athlete, then what do I need to do here? And that sent me on a journey of a lot of soul searching, engaging in different healing arts and spiritual disciplines and practices, mindset practices, coaching programs. And I just jumped right into jiu-jitsu pretty early on. It's been almost 20 years now that I've been actively coaching jiu-jitsu. I ran multiple kids programs. Uh, and now I have my coaching practice, supporting people um, in their performance, but also in their quality of life.
Yeah.
How to support their healing, their growth, their strengthening of who they are, and their awakening to the truth of who they are. And I think whether you're an athlete or a business person or a mom or a whatever field is your like main drive and focus, when you can totally heal, strengthen, and awaken to the truth of who you are, that's going to um, amplify and impact your performance as well as your daily moment to moment quality of life.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I love that you brought up the fact that, your body kind of decided for you. And so instead of just kind of closing the door on it altogether because it didn't pan out the way that you were dreaming that it would. Instead, you were like, okay, how else can I do this? What else is there out there? I actually had an Olympic basketball coach on the podcast, Shawnee Harley, and she same thing. Like she wanted to be the basketball player, but she was short, very good, but she was short, and so she was able to play to college, but after that, she couldn't go any further, and so same thing. She decided, okay, well, how can I still be involved with what I'm passionate about? And then she ended up being at the Olympics twice as the coach rather than, so she still got there. She still got to live her dream. It just looked a lot different, right? And for, for athletes listening, there's a kind of a shitty truth that only 3% of athletes end up like going the distance. It's not very many. But does that negate the fact that sports are amazing, that they're teaching you all these things, and that there's a million different avenues, right? And so I think you're a perfect example. Shawnee's a perfect example of how, the dream might not end up exactly how it looked, but it can still be there in a different way. That that's really powerful. Hey there. Quick pause to say thank you. If you're listening right now, you're already a part of something powerful. We're here to help young athletes and their families build grit, resilience, and purpose, and your support makes that possible. Did you know that over half of podcast listeners never hit follow? That one click actually helps us grow, get bigger, and reach more people who need to hear this. So if you're enjoying this episode, please hit follow or subscribe. It's free, it takes a second, and it really does mean the world to us. Now, back to the show.
Even if it's painful for us, it's like,
Yeah.
we have the vision of what we want. We give it our 100% effort. And if things don't pan out exactly how we wanted them to be or expected them to be, well, that's a moment where we have to learn how to adapt,
Mm-hmm.
face these challenges in our life, and really tune in to the genuine and right direction for our next steps.
Yeah.
And that can be challenging. It actually took me a number, it wasn't, I shared the summary of that journey, but it wasn't quick. Like took
No.
me, it was years of mixed feelings
Yeah.
around, my the professional athletic career that I really wanted to
Yeah.
have. Um, the other thing, and I had to keep working through that, and I'm very grateful. And now I feel very satisfied and fulfilled with what my career is and the fact that I'm still like right now I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I feel healthier than I ever have. I feel stronger than I ever have. I have no chronic pain in my body. Like I sought out the coaches, I stayed the course, I figured it out. I took care of myself and I feel great,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but yeah, all these experiences, we just have to, allow them to forge us, allow
Mm-hmm.
them to guide us. The other thing I want to say around that in, I just didn't know how to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like all I had in my mind was perform, perform, be the best, be the best, you know, just go up against anything, push myself regardless of how I feel. And I just had no idea how to take care of myself. And that's when in my early 20s, it hit me so hard where I was like, I have to learn how to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And I think that's a key thing from a young age. We can think, yes, how do we perform and train the hardest and the best and play hard and all this stuff? But yeah, how do you really take care of yourself? Because if you don't take care of your vessel, then
Mm-hmm.
you can't do your thing.
Yeah.
It's very simple, right? So it's like probably all young people have heard this at some point. It's one of the age-old cliches, but like if you want to be an elite athlete and a healthy person, don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just don't drink.
Yeah.
Like, especially at a young age in your formative years as a teenager, you're going to see it around you, drinking, smoking, various altering things. Like, just don't do it. You can have a wonderful experience without those things. And if you really want to be the best athlete you can be, steer clear of them. Wait till you're an adult and you can do it. If you want to have a drink or two in a balanced way, by all means,
Yeah.
enjoy that. But when you're young, like, don't drink, don't get into those things, be in that, be that, you know, like feed off of just being that badass who's so focused in what you do, who
Mm-hmm.
treats your body like this incredible temple that is allowing you to live your passion, live your sport, be free, and to be able to run and play and jump and do all these things really well, be free to think really clearly.
Yeah.
Like that's that's what I wish at a young age. I was like, that's what's going to make me a badass. Not
Yes.
being the guy who is willing to drink more than the other guy and stand up to anyone, win that fight, and then still show up the next day to practice. And yeah, I can do all that. It's like that just wrecked me. And I think that's part of the pain I've had to process is I think that the combination of drinking, emotional turmoil, and just craziness that I got into at a young age and the way I beat my body up, I think I could have been a very successful professional athlete if I didn't do those things.
Yeah.
This is my path. I had to learn through them, and now I can turn around and support other people, and I understand what that's like. But I think it seriously, especially the drinking, I think seriously changed my life experience and my development mentally and physically from a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's a same thing here. I went down that path as well, and was I don't know, yeah, 15. I think I was young. I was in grade 11 when I was 15. I was a grade ahead, but um same thing. It was a detriment. It got in the way of so many other things. And actually, my partner, he played baseball at a young age as well, and was really good. He was a pitcher, and they actually wanted to take him to like a Roger Clemens pitching camp, and like he is 6'2" and weighs like 175 pounds, which is like every pitcher in the pro
Yeah.
league, right? But like when you said that, the environment, the kids that you started hanging around, it was the same thing for him. He had crazy things going on at home, and he found his way into a group of kids who was smoking pot and drinking, and then he walked away from the sport. And it's, we don't have regrets because everything leads us to who we are and where we are. But if you ask him if he could kind of change one thing, that is 100% what it is. He'd be like, I could have been playing the sport that I absolutely love to this day. And so let's talk about that for a minute, because as youth, like that's when we start pushing away from our parents, whether they're great parents or they're difficult ones. Scientifically, we're meant to do it.
Yeah.
But and you don't really, I used to hate it when my mom would be like, you become like the people you hang around. And it's just like, okay, mom, right? And you roll your eyes. But it's true. Like now I'm an adult and I'm like, okay, I am so careful about who I spend time with, because it is whatever is going on with that group of people is contagious. And so how do we frame this in a way that youth will receive it? You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
it's a different thing hearing it from people maybe like you and I, because we're not the parents. Hearing it from your parents, you're just like, okay. But why is it so important? And what is the difference between fitting in and belonging?
Oh, okay. There's a lot there. And that last question, that's a significant question. So first of all, like you said, it's natural for kids to want to distance to a degree from their parents or don't really want to listen to their parents or roll their eyes at the parents' suggestion. It's like already my son is 6 years old. I take him to jujitsu. I'm one of the coaches helping lead the class. He'll much more quickly listen to what one of the other coaches say versus to
Mm,
what I say as dad
yeah,
in class. So it's already like I see that, and I think that it's part of the natural order that we play a certain role as parents, and then we get mentors and coaches that play a certain role in the kids' lives that the kids will be receptive to. I think that's
yeah,
natural,
yeah,
right? So if parents are listening to this, if coaches are listening to this, know that there's just that natural role and you want to set it up. If you set it up properly, where as parents, you play a certain role where you support them at home, you support them in certain ways. But then as far as keeping them on track, as far as helping them with their mindset in certain ways. Like that's where other coaches and mentors come in and they can be really receptive to those.
Yeah.
So, um, I'm trying to track everything you said. So, the end, you said fitting in and belonging. And, hmm. Oh, yeah. And of course, all of us as teenagers, we rolled our eyes probably to some degree when the adults said, don't drink, don't smoke. You're like, yeah, got it. But it's, it's important. It's really, really important.
Mm.
Um, and, I would encourage. Because now I know multiple young athletes who I've worked with over the years, and I'm still connected them close with their families. And these young people, I mean, as far as I know, young people can be sneaky, but as far as I know, there's no drinking involved. There's none of that involved because the parents and the coaches are very involved with the kids, like very consistently involved intimately in what's going on, even as teenagers. And these kids are the most incredible athletes. Um, really performing well, really loving what they're doing, and they also have a way that they carry themselves
Yes.
like in a respectful, kind of
Yeah.
dignified way. Um, and so that's sort of a key piece there is I think what happens is that we have like a school system that has the kids just mainly around their peers for influence.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not to fault anyone. It's not saying, but parents are at work all day, kids are at school all day, and then there's just, you know, kids are getting mostly influenced by their peers of how to engage. And I think us as adults, if we can find a way to get creative and just be really, really present and proactive and involved in our kids' lives, so that even if it doesn't seem like they're taking in what we're saying, they're spending more time they're still spending a lot of their time around you and around mature adults, and they're getting imprinting that way. That's going to
Mhm.
make them see that these other behaviors of their peers are ridiculous.
Mhm.
Um, so then for the youth, for you, if um, you know, you're focused on fitting in or you're focused on an experience of belonging, fitting in is very different than belonging. Fitting in doesn't necessarily involve belonging, but belonging will naturally help you experience what it means to fit in.
Mm.
And, um, you know, if I feel insecure and I just want people to like me because I feel lonely and insecure, then I'm going to see just whoever seems like they have the most power in the social structure. I'm going to try to fit in with them. That's what it was for me as I was going before puberty, I got bullied a lot. I was a very skinny, just kind of lanky, not very strong kid. I went through puberty, I ended up bigger than a lot of the guys that were bullying me, and I turned around and I said, "The tides have changed. The tides have changed." And I made friends with the other toughest guy in class. He had the most power in the social structure. We became best friends, and our focus was on running shit and being tough um and and then ended up drinking and smoking a lot and doing all that kind of stuff. So what I would encourage young people is to hang out if we'll say this, if you want to be one of the best athletes ever, if you want to be a professional athlete and excel and be that badass and make it into that 3%, then you want to spend the majority of your time hanging out with other people who have that same mindset.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean they want to do the exact same thing as you, but people that are like, yeah, I don't need to drink to fit in. I don't need to do stupid stuff to fit in. I really want to excel. I really want to do wholesome things. I know I can have fun doing that. And I really want to be the excel in my academics, excel in my sport, be the most physically fit person I can be. It's way more fun to hang out with people like that. Now that those are the friends that I have now. And even if it feels lonely at first, like you have to distance yourself from a certain crowd, just stay the course and you'll find that if you're patient over time, those other like-minded people will start to show up. It's the natural thing that happens. Now, anyone who I hang out with is someone who loves training, they love working out, they love being outside, they love eating healthy food. They love taking care of their families. Like it's healthy, wholesome people. And I know that when you have all the influences and the ideas around you as a teenager and you want to try different things, it can be challenging.
Hmm.
But again, I come back to if you need motivation of like what's cool, like you want to be a badass, like get super focused and hang out with other people who are super focused and like to do wholesome things that aren't going to drain your energy and are going to help you excel.
Hmm. Yeah. How I have learned to kind of like differentiate between fitting in and belonging is that fitting in means that you feel the need to do things that you wouldn't normally do, change yourself in some way in order to feel accepted. And belonging is where you don't do that. You can be totally authentic to who you are, all the weird things, all the cool things, like whatever that is, you can just be you, and your group accepts you as who you are. And so, you know, and I mean, when you're a youth, you're right. Like you try things on for size. You kind of flex your muscles, what's going on here, what's not. But I think that the important part when you're a teenager, all you guys, is figuring out what is really important to you, right? What is it more important for you to feel cool or be seen by a lot of people as the cool kid or, all of that kind of stuff for a short amount of time while you're in school? Or is it more important for you to be kind of like working on yourself and gaining a bunch of skills so that when those few short years are over, that you are actually like dynamite and ready to just like the world won't know what happened because you're in it.
Yeah, I think everything you just said there was so well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, belonging is where you can be your authentic self.
Hmm. Yeah. And I had an interesting experience in high school too, was that like I was homeschooled until grade 7. And so I feel like being homeschooled, like my mom was my teacher, my siblings were my classmates. And that just for a very formative period of life, I built a solid foundation of who I was. And then I went to school. And everybody had kind of like been in the same classes since they were in elementary school, and I was the new kid and like all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really understand the hierarchy.
Mm.
But I was tall and I became an athlete, so I kind of just automatically for some reason got accepted into the cool group even though I don't even know why. Like I still don't, but I never stayed just hanging out with them. Like I would go and hang out and spend time with kind of like all of the different groups, and then the gym would be kind of like my home base kind of a thing, right? And And what I realized through my, spending time kind of through every group was that the kids that I actually felt like comfortable with were the ones that were not busy worrying about what everybody else thought. They were studying, or they were, not that I was studying, I'm not gonna lie, I was an athlete student, not a student athlete. But
Yeah.
so it was just interesting though to be able to like be moving through these groups and seeing how there was kids who you could tell were secure in who they were, and it just the noise didn't matter.
Mm-mm.
And everybody else, I went to a high school reunion and they're all the same. And I'm glad that I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just looked at the time. This hour has like blown by.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have meetings after this? Like, do
No.
you have an extra, if we go an extra 15 minutes, are you okay? I can edit this
Oh
part.
yeah, I have time. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Um, what was I gonna say? It was a piece about, damn it. Oh, it's gone. Thank God
You
for
were just
listening.
saying how who you felt the most belonging and like you were most interested in hanging out with were those that weren't worried about the noise or were thinking about what other people were thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that too is that all of those people who were maybe kind of like seen as less than by the cool kids or whatever, they went on into life and they left town and they became bigger and greater and are people that you learn from in a different way, you know? And so it was just, yeah, it's interesting. So I think it's hard as a youth to see past school because
Yeah.
school is just all encompassing, but
Yeah.
it actually just plays such a small, small role in the grand scheme of life.
Absolutely. It's hard to see, when you're 14, 15 even, you think about being 18, 19, and it just feels like such a world away.
Yeah.
And that's where we as adults can support this, like what you're saying, support this mindset, support this awareness. Like, hey,
Hmm.
yes, in a way it feels like a forever time away, but it's going to come quick. And right now you're developing your foundation.
Yeah.
So you just gotta stay consistent, stay steady, develop your foundation. And yes, I understand that it's natural as a teenager to really want a certain approval from peers, to want certain kind of connection and belonging with peers. But you can be really particular
Hmm.
about who you share your time with
Yeah.
and who you develop relationships with. And the more trying to think of a better word than particular, but like the more intentional, that's the word I'm looking for. The more intentional you are about the people you become close friends with and spend time with,
Hmm.
the um the more that's going to serve you in your life in the long run. Because our peers, especially when we're young, it can be the most influential thing in our lives. And
Hmm.
so better to have a quality few peers than like some big quantity of a bunch of peers just because you want to fit in and you go want to go with like what most people are doing. Because I mean, if we just look at the stats as well, if 3% of people make it to a certain level, and it's really in any field,
Yeah.
like probably some similar number in every single field, whether you're an athlete, a musician, or in
Yeah.
a particular business, it's like those who excel the most, it's that small percentage. And
Hmm.
so if we just look at that, well, then why would we want to do what most people do if
Yeah.
most people are not in that, right?
Yes.
And again, it's not saying bad, it's not trying to be better than other people. It's not saying bad things about people in general. It's just
No.
saying that you want to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
If you just live as your most authentic, healthy, aligned self, that differentiation will happen naturally and you'll excel to the fullest. And then you have the opportunity to be in that top percent of people in your sport.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to be something different, then you have to do something different than the rest of the people are doing.
Yeah.
And one last thing I think on the friend piece, and then we can move on. We've done so good on this. But this is an exercise that I have done in my own life, and I have a 21-year-old daughter, a 16-year-old daughter, and a 13-year-old daughter. And
Wow.
with
Wow.
all three of them, we have done a lot of talking about what is a good friend. Like, and literally starting at very young age. Like, well, she's my friend because I met her on the playground, right? I was like, okay, so, what makes a good friend? And then that changes with every stage, the like friend in kindergarten, what makes a friend in kindergarten is going to be different than what makes a friend in grade 7, which is going to be different than grade 12. So it's really interesting for all you youth listening, like write out what is a good friend? What do you need in a good friend? Like write a list and then
I
look at your friends and go, okay, how are they measuring up to that? And also look at yourself. If that's what a good friend is that how you are acting as well for your friends? And that's just an interesting exercise for everybody to do. Yeah.
love that question. That's an amazing question. I'm going to take that and remember that as well. I think we talk about it with our son, but it's like a great, just direct question to ask, and for young people to be turning in their minds
Yeah.
to do exactly what we've been talking about, is being intentional about who they're spending time with and developing close connections with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one. Okay, we have covered so many things, and I want to know what is something that you think is important that we haven't covered that we should.
Mm. Nothing's coming up right now specifically that is a totally different thing we haven't covered. But I just want to add and bring home, like, uh, coming back to the ideas of taking good care of yourself
Mm,
and consistency.
yeah.
So our recovery, even though when you're young, you don't need to do so much like recovery hacks or practices or whatever, but um, knowing over time, understanding that your recovery is an equally important part of your training as the active training. And so just knowing how to, yes, go hard, train hard, love that, push yourself, but train in a way that you can do it consistently for years.
Hmm.
Um, and learn how to take really good care of yourself from a young age so that when other people are burning out, you're just getting started.
Hmm.
When I was first training jujitsu and I was struggling with my own kind of my body feeling so like broken down and hurt and all this stuff, and I looked around at some of the other black belts, and they're older, they're farther along in their journey, and they have all this knowledge, but they're also had all these injuries and they're all broken down. So they had all this knowledge, but they weren't free to use it because their bodies couldn't like train hard anymore. And I was like, that was also a pivotal realization for me. It was like time and experience plus knowledge equals awesome freedom, awesome life, and being able to actually utilize what I've been training. So
Hmm.
it's like that's the combination that we want, is we want to give ourselves more time so that we can combine knowledge with physical ability. And if you
Hmm.
start training from a young age and then you get to where you're 25, you're 30, and you're continuing to be in the best shape of your life and beyond, well beyond,
Hmm.
depending on your sport, right? People can peak at different ages, but 25, 30, 35, 40, you can be at your athletic peak at these ages if you just think, I just got to train consistently and take good care of myself. And
Yeah.
while others are falling off, you're you're excelling and leaving them in the dust.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree that that is so important. And that is something that I struggled with as an athlete as well. It's like, oh, I don't need to warm up properly, like whatever, or I don't need to stretch afterwards or do the strength and conditioning or and similar with you, my body fell apart. Like my shoulder and from volleyball, swing rotations and all that kind of stuff. And so I had to stop a lot sooner than I really should have. And that's totally the recovery piece, right? And I think too, a good way to frame it for all of you athletes who are like us and are like, I don't really need it, is maybe you don't need it right now, but by doing this, by taking care of your vessel, and what you're doing is you're creating a gift for your future self.
Yes,
Right. And so, take this one. Yes, you're right. You might be limber and not need to warm up properly right now, which is awesome. It does not stay that way. And so if you build that habit right now, then it's going to be easier for you later because it's just going to be a habit. You're going to do it naturally. But also, you're putting a friggin' bow on yourself and saying, "Here you go for future you." And that's a pretty wonderful thing for sure.
absolutely. And the other quick thing I'll say to athletes and to parents is proactively find the best coaches
Yes.
for yourself or for your kids. I mean, all the things we're talking about here, and this is the same for any field as well, is you have all your like, standard level coaches, good coaches, and then you have the ones that are great.
Hmm.
Find those ones. If you can, find
Hmm.
those ones for your kid, and they'll be able to provide the nuance over time to support your kid or to support you in
Hmm.
just knowing how to train, how to recover, how to do these things. Because you as the athlete, you want to be able to have great coaches in your corner that you can just trust
Hmm.
and listen to, and they'll tell you what to do.
Hmm.
Of course, you always be combining your own judgment and sense to things, but if you can find those great coaches and mentors that really know how to guide your journey and
Hmm.
help you train in a sustainable high performing way,
Yeah.
that just makes all the difference. Like that's what I wish I would have had. I would
Yeah.
have known, or my parents would have known to, go the extra mile to get me that like one-on-one best coaching or get
Hmm.
on that team that really had the best coaching because now like whatever his thing ends up being, like I'm so excited to pour into getting him the best of the coaches, whether it's he loves guitar or he loves baseball or whatever. It's like, great, let's get you the best person for you
Hmm.
to support your journey.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that. And the importance too that like mindset, mental training is just as important as the physical skill.
Yeah.
Because actually, at the end of the day, too, that's what sets the good players apart, the great players apart from the good players.
Yeah.
Like it's the people who are going to be able to have the tools in their tool belt from these great coaches that you've had to seek out to perform under pressure, to manage their emotions on the field or on the court, to know the nutrition, to, all of these things. And so definitely seek out the coaches who are able to train at a high level and don't forget that mental training is just as important as the physical.
Exactly. And I hope that whoever's listening and watching is taking notes because I'm going to say one more thing. And this may be an obvious thing to some, or maybe not an obvious thing to some, but in whatever your sport is, obsessively watch the people that you admire the most, the professionals you admire the most in your sport that are the best in your
Mhm.
sport. Just like watch them, observe the look on their face, observe how they move, how they carry themselves,
Mhm.
what they do under pressure. All is just obsessively like watch them, soak it in. You're still going
Mm.
to be you. It's not about being them, but it's about just absorb, like realizing that when you admire something in someone else, that means it exists within you.
Hmm.
And so if they can do it, you can do it. And so you're just absorbing and learning from them just by watching. And then you can take that into the amplification of your performance.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a song lyric by one of my favorite artists, Nako Bear. And in the song, it goes, he says something about seeing people that he'd like to be just like, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, love that. I've listened
Right.
to a lot of his music as
Oh,
well.
yeah. There you go. Amazing. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. We spoke about topics that I haven't talked about yet on the podcast, like friendship, environment,
Oh,
all of these
cool.
things which are super vital for growing and being forged and really stepping into authentically, who we are as people. So I appreciate you coming and sharing your experience and wisdom. And I want to acknowledge you too for doing the hard work of not giving up on the athlete dream and having an open mind to how else that could look because you did that, now there is like generations of people who are going to learn from you, and that's really important. So thank you.
I hope so. That's the goal, be able to turn around and learn from and give what I didn't get, you know. And so thank you. It's been awesome meeting you, Mariel. It's awesome. I thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. I could jam on this stuff for hours and hours. So
Yeah.
thank you. I hope whoever's listening got some good value out of this. And I don't know if you put links up to share,
I
but
will. Yeah.
if I next Thursday, July 24th, I don't know when this goes out, but I'm doing a webinar all about working with self-doubt within yourself and being able to live the life you are meant to be. So
Mm,
that's I'm doing next week. So that's like a direct free session that people could jump on with me, and I can
amazing.
share that link if that works. And then I can share links to my website if people wanted to connect with me.
Yeah, I will have all of those links, everybody, in the description for the podcast, as well as all over social media. Every time we post a reel or anything like that, make sure you follow Andrew. His tag is embody the practice, which is just so perfect for what you teach. Yeah. And until next time, train your mind, build your grit, and forge your legacy.
You've been listening to Forged Youth. New episodes drop every week, so if this hits home for you, throw us a follow and subscribe. Forged Youth, where resilience is trained.